Before we get to today's episode, I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, and this one will be really helpful, especially if you've been doing some gambling, as Chris and I have been doing of late. Do you want to get an edge over Vegas in the books? BetQL is available for download, and it is the only mobile app that puts all of the important research you need to make smart bets in one place. With BetQL, you can easily access line movement to see how the lines have moved. This app gives you access to public betting trends in real time, so you can see which side the public favors. BetQL's powerful algorithm gives users value bets of the day based off of detailed recent and historical trends. You can also calculate your return on your picks and track them throughout the day. The best part of all, you can download BetQL for free from your Apple or Android device. Head to betql.co to download the only app you need to outsmart Vegas. That's betql.co. BetQL is brought to you by the creators of RotoQL, the leading daily fantasy lineup optimizer trusted by 100,000 DFS players. You can also download RotoQL for free for both Apple and Android. Again, that's BetQL. And now, today's episode. Welcome into the latest episode of the 5 Reasons Podcast. I'm Ethan Skolnick here, as always, with Chris Whittingham. Now, usually Chris and I do not do these together. It's one of the marvels of modern technology. But today we're both at Media Day. We had a group of 6.
This is the first one that we've done together? In terms of like sitting next to each other for a pod.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
This is
Actually,
alarming.
It's been about 3 years since we've done this, actually, now that I think about it. And we had, in addition to the two of us, we had 4 people. I was going to have to say 4 guys from Miami Heat Beat.
That is not accurate.
It's not accurate anymore, thank God. Because it was 10 guys, but now they've added Caitlin Anderson. So actually, Brian Goins was out here with Giancarlo Navas and Alex Toledo from Miami Heat Beat. So you can check out their interviews. They did a bunch of interviews today. Bam Adebayo, Kelly Olynyk, Tyler Johnson. If you know the story there, that's one you'll definitely want to tune into, with Giancarlo interviewing Tyler. So did a bunch of interviews today. We actually had 3 of our own, and we're going to play those here during the episode. Now, Chris, before we do, we need to address one thing, because obviously Heat fans are coming to us today, and they want to know, okay, what's the latest with Jimmy Butler? And the latest is it really didn't affect anything here. Now, I will say there was something odd that happened today, and the pizza arrived before a lot of the players did. And what I mean by that is there were a bunch of sort of the back end of the roster players that were brought up to the practice facility after Spoelstra and Wade spoke downstairs in the interview room. And so the back of the roster players were brought up, Adebayo was brought up, and then some guys who can't be traded were brought up. So I mentioned Wade earlier, but Wayne Ellington was brought up. Obviously, he can't be traded until December 15th. Tyler Johnson, not likely to be traded. Those guys were brought up here. And then there was a really long break where, as I mentioned, pizza was brought, which has not been done before. Okay. And we waited about 20 minutes between shifts. Okay. Before the group of Whiteside, Josh Richardson, Justice Winslow, and Kelly Olynyk were brought up. And those are 4 names that we've heard could be involved in a possible package. Not saying all of them, but could be involved. And so it was curious, I'll just say that. Now, Dion Waiters was not brought up, but he was downstairs earlier, and the Heat did say that it was because Dion's not going to be with the team initially that he didn't participate in a lot of these activities. So as far as that, like I said, odd day in that sense, different than a lot of the other ones that I've covered. But ultimately, everybody finished the day with us, and we know that because Josh Richardson was the last person here.
And stayed extra. He stayed for like 25 minutes with us.
Right. Not only did he do the interview that you're going to hear with Chris and I, but that he stayed to talk with Miami Heat Beat and basically critique Giancarlo's love life. So it was an interesting day here, and you'll be sure to hear that interview. But what we've got for you today are 3 interviews. We're going to start with Goran Dragic. Obviously, he's back for another season, and he has some interesting things to say about his future and how he wants it to go. Then we're going to bring on Udonis Haslem, because if we have him third, he'll kill us. And we'll touch on a little bit different stuff than we talked about in the episode that we did with him already.
Should we say, before we get to his interview, what he did today here at Heat Media Day?
Yeah.
So the way that it's set up, we are at the Heat's practice court, which is essentially on the second floor of American Airlines Arena, kind of like overlooking the bay. And there are multiple hoops, obviously, that are kind of come down from varying points of the ceiling. And there's a fairly sizable one in the middle of the floor. And all of a sudden, I turn around, and Udonis Haslem is hanging from the rim. And okay, he's hanging from the rim. You know, he's feeling froggy about his athleticism. Then he goes full Spider-Man and climbs on top of the rim, then behind the backboard. Then he's basically hanging off the back of the backboard, and in the middle of that shouts, "This is my last year." He's like, okay, all right. I guess this is Udonis Haslem's last year.
We thought it was going to be his last minute, actually.
Right.
That's the way that was playing out. Udonis had to steal the show here today from Dwayne because that was really the only way to do it. And then after he did that, he did a few more interviews and came over and sat down with us. So that's one thing you'll hear in there. The other, and you can check that out. I posted it at Ethan J. Skolnick and 3-2-1. I posted it at EJ Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports on Instagram, so you can check it out there. I did post the video of it. But also the other thing he talks about here is we did have Udonis on a pod, called it God's Plan, and we really enjoyed it. And then Mario Chalmers came along and beat him in downloads. And I informed Udonis of that when I saw him about a week ago at his new restaurant. He was not happy about that. So we'll address that. And then the third interview will be with Josh Richardson. Now, we did not talk about trades or anything like that with him. Obviously, whatever plays out will play out. But thought that was an interesting conversation until Chris hijacked it with Soccer Talk. We've decided to leave that on for you because that's the time that Josh got the most engaged and seemed to enjoy it the most. But I basically disappeared. So anyway, we're going to do those 3 interviews, Dragic, Haslem, and then we'll do Josh Richardson. If you want to hear the other interviews that were done, Ronnie Magruder also interviewed with Miami Heat Beat. They'll be posting those interviews over the next couple of weeks. All right, Ethan Skolnick out here at Heat Media Day for 5 Reasons Sports, here with All-Star point guard Goran Dragic. And before we get to this season, let's go through the formalities of your summer. So I know every summer has been a little different for you. There have been some summers you played a lot. There have been some summers you haven't played much at all and kind of come back in. What was this summer like?
Probably this was I didn't play a lot. I mean, I didn't even play no games this summer. First summer that I was completely off, and I think so that helps me a lot, especially because I can put a lot of work into my individual growth, and I feel amazing. I feel energized. I feel hungry again, and I think so that's going to help me a lot for the upcoming season.
When you're, not that you're an old guy, I'm a lot older than you, but when you're, not that you're an old guy, because I'm a lot older than you, but when you're at your age in this game now, I know that you took a lot from Steve when you played with Steve, and Steve won his 2 MVPs actually at an older age than you are right now. What did you learn from him in terms of keeping your body the way you want it? Not only that, but keeping your mind right, because I know when you're doing season after season, it can become drudgery a little bit. What did you do for that?
I did a lot. I mean, first of all, the most important thing is eating habits. I think so. That's really important. I'm eating healthy. I mean, probably one of the best shapes that I've been in the last 4 years. I feel amazing. But like you said, the most important thing is mentally. Mentally to be tough and to be fresh, to be hungry. I think so that this is going to be my 11th year. It's a lot of basketball behind me, but the most important thing that I'm looking forward to play basketball, and I think so that's kind of what keeps you young, even if you let's say I'm 32, but I still feel young. So in my mind.
But you weren't. You weren't a starter right from the start when you came into the league. And some guys, when they've gotten into their 30s, have talked about how that actually helps them, because you weren't logging 35 minutes a game from like the first minute that you came into the league. Do you feel that a little bit now? I mean, obviously you want to play. You came from overseas. You certainly believed you had the ability to play. You had a quarter against the Spurs that proved you had the ability to play, and others. But do you feel like that's helped you at this stage?
Yeah. It's hard. It's always hard because, like you said, when you are a young player coming into the league, you want to play right away, have a lot of minutes, and I didn't. And this was a long process for me to kind of develop myself as a player, and I understood that. So it was, I put a lot of hard out. I mean, a lot of hours in, tried to get better, and maybe now that's a good thing, kind of, because I didn't play a lot the first two seasons. So basically, my body didn't. It's not how we say falling apart. I feel amazing. I never had none of major big injuries. I was always healthy, and I think so. That's a big part of how you can play on a high level after 30 or 32, 33, 34 years old. As long as you take care of yourself, I think so you can do it.
When you talk about specifics you want to get better on year after year? You look at your season last year as your first All-Star season. Probably shouldn't have been your first. Probably should have had one before that. But when you look at the season in totality, what did you like? What do you think can get better? What did you sort of go into this summer trying to improve?
What I didn't like that I was always tired.
Right.
That was the thing. That was probably the toughest thing to kind of to battle with, because when you're tired and you're not kind of happy to go and practice. Oh man, practice again. That's kind of the toughest things to do. And this year I feel the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the opposite, and hopefully that I can continue to do like that. But the main thing for me is just to stay ready. If you're staying ready, you can do big things. I had an all-star year last year, but I feel like that I can improve a lot. Especially I was working this off-season, especially everything to my right,
Mm-hmm.
going right to pull up,
Mm-hmm.
finishing with the right, and I know what I can do going left.
Right.
So, but if I can kind of get better at my right situation, then I can expand my game, and it's going to be much easier for me.
Did you feel like teams were starting, because your finishing numbers have always been really, really
Yeah.
high for a guard. You've always kind of been consistently top 5 in the league. That was down a little bit last year from where it's been. Is that because teams were playing you to your tendency, do you think? They were playing you to your left?
No. I mean, all these last 10 years, they always playing me not playing me the same, but they always forced me right. So I never had issues with that. I always find a way to play tricky mind games with them. And I would just say that tiredness, what kind of pushed me back. Because, if you don't feel your legs fresh or your mind is not 100% into it,
Right.
then it's really tough to play.
You have a team here with a lot of guards. A lot of guards, and we'll see how things play out. But as of right now, you have a lot of guards on this team. You're the only true point guard, established veteran point guard. I don't know that I've ever seen a point guard who's had to play with so many two guards on the same team, if we want to throw Josh in there. How do you make it work with each of the individual guys? Because, I mean, from game to game, you had a great chemistry with Dion. You've obviously had time with Dwayne now at this stage. You and Jay Rich, he was your backup for a little while when he first came in the league. So you've played with all these guys, Rodney, etc. But how do you make it work with each of them?
I mean, like you said, every player is different. Every player is let's say Wayne Ellington. He's a totally different player than Jay Rich. Wayne is a catch and shoot player. So you just need to know where he likes to get the ball and how you can get the ball to him. So, and with Jay Rich is a different stuff. So it's a lot of two guards, different players that you need to kind of a bond with them on the floor and try to understand which one is the best position to put them in. And only like that we can thrive as a team, as a player. And I think so that's the really most important thing, to know your players, what they can do and what they cannot do.
You want to push. You've always wanted to push. I mean, you want to get the ball and go, but are you looking at that differently now with this kind of team?
I mean, it's funny thing, the last year and suppose like, gee, push it, I wanted to push it. So I was like, man, I don't know if I know how to push it anymore, because for the past 4 years we were always a half-court team. So that's gonna, I mean, if I get opportunity, of course I'm gonna push it and go.
Right.
That's what I'm best at. So we'll see. It depends what Spo wants, what kind of style he wants to play. But I feel like that I developed my game on the half court too now, so that I'm more complete player as few years in the past when I was playing with Phoenix Suns and Houston,
Right.
those up tempo teams. So it's kind of a different situation.
Do you consider yourself, I remember when you came and you were adjusting to this area, and I remember at first you didn't have your family here, and that was something you had to adjust to. You've had them here now for a period of time. Do you feel like a Miamian now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. I mean, this city can grow quickly under your skin. I love it here, and I want to stay here. I want to retire here if it's possible. Even when I retired, probably we're gonna stay here. Probably we're gonna live here. So it's an amazing place to be. A lot of different culture, friendly people, and I feel like at home.
But you're also one of those. I mean, you're not someone who seeks the spotlight. You've never been. I know even the All-Star game. You told me like you were kind of, you liked it, but you were kind of done with it after a period of time. It was a little bit too much. Are you still able to blend in? Because I know you take your kids to the park.
Yeah,
you do that,
I do. I just put my hat on, some sunglasses, and I'm good. I'm skinny, short. Everybody says, well, "Man, you play basketball?" Yeah, hell yeah, I play basketball. But it's a little bit different in my country, It's, but
What's it like? Because for people who don't understand, you go back to Slovenia.
Yeah.
What is it like? Where can you go? Where can you not go? Because I would think right now you're the second most famous person in that country behind probably the first lady. I would guess might be first.
I don't know. Luka is up there.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Luka is up there. So, I think so. I'm on a way out. Luka is on a way in. So. It's a perfect timing, and we won the gold medal. So, but I don't know. People back home, they're not really a big fans of politics,
So they stay out of that.
But back home, like it's crazy a little bit. But what I really like about the people, our culture is way different than here. We even if you're famous, they're not looking you as a star. You know what I mean? They would approach you, but they would not like pass out or yell. It's a different culture, different mentality. So.
And you mentioned Luka. How good is he going to be? There are some people who think he should have been the first pick in the draft. He's going to be the best player in the draft. What is your feeling on that?
I think so. He would deserve that, especially with let's say if you're talking about now what he can bring. I think so. He's the best player in that draft. I don't know about the future, how the other players going to develop, but his ability to play is amazing. I mean, his just feel of the game is unbelievable, and he's only 19 years old. He won everything what he could back in Europe, so the next stage was obvious NBA. And some people are saying he's not quick, but he's not quick, but he got that one thing that a lot of players they don't have it. He knows when to pass the ball at the right time, and he thinks quick. I think so. That's kind of a bit speed.
Well, Dirk was talking about that. He said the first time he saw him in practice that it's just his ability to see the play before the play is above and beyond what we've seen from anywhere else. Is it easier, do you think, now for international players to come to the NBA than maybe it was when you did?
I think so. It is, but I mean, I would not put myself because I came 11 years ago. I would even go farther back when it was Vlade Divac, Peja, Dražan Petrovic. Those guys had a hard time because it was was not a lot of European or international players in NBA, and that was kind of a thinking process. Okay, if those international players can even play in NBA. Now we already proven that we can, and it's. I think so. I don't know how many international players in NBA, but it's quite it's a lot. So
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Final thing for you. This team, I know that some guys feed off expectations, and I know there's a feeling with this team that they're bringing back the same crew. How's it going to be different? You guys obviously had a playoff series against Philadelphia. It didn't go the way that you wanted. But you also know what continuity can mean for a team if that's what direction this team wants to go. So what did you see that you liked last year that you think you can build on so that maybe we can talk about this team as a top 4 team in the East instead of the way it's being currently discussed?
I mean, what I really like is that we're going to battle, every game that we're going to bring it, especially if you play against good teams, we always bring our A game, and I think so that's important. But like you said, I feel like that we need to work on consistency because through the whole season we were a lot of ups and downs, and we lost a lot of games that we should win, especially on the paper we were a better team, and we always take an L against those teams. And if you play more consistent, that's kind of prepared you for the playoffs. and then you know that against good teams you're going to be more consistent, you're going to have less mistakes. And last year I feel like that we were up there with Philly, but it's always missing something, that it always comes those black minutes that we are not consistent or we were really bad, and that's why they beat us. That's why they were a better team, and hopefully this year we can take one step further. Hopefully we can have a healthy team, but on the end of the day, a lot of teams are going through that injury, so everybody's starting from the same position that we are. So hopefully we're gonna develop that chemistry that we need and get better.
I appreciate it, Goran Dragic. You want to sign off in one of your other languages that you know?
I'm just gonna say one thing. Prite u čim većem številu i da imamo skupi dobru sezonu. Yeah.
That might have been that Ethan needs to get a haircut.
Let me translate. I just said I hope that the fans gonna enjoy this season and to see this gym popping. So that's the only thing.
I love that you use popping in English when you go to that. Goran Dragic joining us here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for doing it, Goran. Appreciate it. We'll get back to the episode here in a second, but we told you a little bit earlier about the app BetQL. Now, what should you do with the information that you get from BetQL? You should go to betdsi.com, and you should use the promo code REASON101 to get your deposit matched up to $2,500.
Yes, very much indeed, Ethan. You choose REASON101, get your deposit matched up to $2,500 at betdsi.com. And for me, one of the great features of betdsi.com is, so for example, we're taping this on a Monday at Heat Media Day. I was kind of looking at the lines for the Monday Night Football game tonight between the Steelers and the Bucs. I don't really have that much of a feel for it, but one of the things that I've kind of gotten into doing is live betting games, where you can kind of take a little bit of the information that you've seen and say, okay, now I have a feel for it. I did it actually on the Thursday night game between the Jets and the Browns, where I was like, oh, maybe this is the Baker Mayfield game, and literally the moment he stepped on the field, I was like, all right, let's see what happens if I throw a few bucks on the Browns, and then all of a sudden it leads them to victory. So you can kind of feel your way through these games by virtue of live betting. One of the great features over at betdsi.com. Obviously, basketball season is coming up. I'd imagine there'll be lines on preseason basketball if you're so inclined. But if you want to bet on regular season basketball, obviously season starting soon, NFL season in full swing, college football in full swing, head over to betdsi.com and use the promo code REASON101.
And now, Udonis Haslem. Ethan Skolnick back with you here from Heat Media Day up at the Heat's practice facility at American Airlines Arena on the 5 Reasons podcast. Welcoming back. We had him for one of our most popular episodes. We called it God's Plan.
Still can't believe Rio. You said Rio.
Well, so okay, we're gonna discuss that.
I
first.
Disagree with that. Those numbers had to be skewed.
Well, no, we're gonna. All right, so
it's rigged.
All right, so I'm gonna fill people.
Had to be skewed.
I'm gonna fill people in on what's going on with Udonis Haslem here. So basically, we had Udonis on a little bit earlier as we were sort of just getting started. We didn't have sort of the subscribers at that stage. And then about a month later, we had Mario Chalmers on. And so Mario's episode is, I believe, right now about 80 downloads ahead of UD's. And I just think it's a product of circumstance of when we tape those 2 episodes. It's not about the quality of the 2 episodes.
So basically, my episode helped catapult Rio's episode to success.
Pretty much
That's
what
correct.
happened with you guys
Well,
helping him get rings.
Rio never give me that credit.
That's right.
He still thinks it's the big 4. There's no big 3. There was a big 4.
There's a big 3, a little 11, and Rio.
Right. But it was the 2 of you guys actually that coined that, the big 3 and the little 12, right?
Yeah,
it was the 2 of you guys that.
Shane Battier was in there somewhere. It was a lot of guys involved in that one.
All right, so we want to get to what you decided to do today because we posted the video up there. We need you to be on this team this year, and you're climbing up to the hoop to jump. I mean, have the Heat made you that crazy over the last 15 years?
I've been climbing up the rebounding charts. I've been climbing up the business charts. I'm just climbing, brother. It's just my mentality. Keep climbing.
You calling this, what is it you're really calling this now? The Last Stand?
The Last Stand.
I've been going back and forth with a lot of different things. I mean, Dwayne got the Last Dance. I've been saying the last ride, the last stance, the last. I've been all over the place with it. I'm a hashtag something soon. I'm a hashtag something soon.
I want to put my vote in for talk.
So let's get, you mentioned the businesses. Was over at the soft opening for 800 Degrees. So how much input did you and Dwayne have on the menu? I mean, are you now a food connoisseur in addition to everything else you're doing?
Yeah, a lot. We were hands on with pretty much everything. Me more so with a lot of development that was going on. With Dwayne being on the West Coast. But as far as the menu and the food, that was both of us. I have my signature wings. He has his burger. We've kind of catered the menu towards a lot of different things because we're in Miami, and we have to cater to the market in Miami where we've added ceviche. We've added certain things that the brand hasn't had in other restaurants. So, the brand has really given us a lot of leeway to kind of do a lot of different things. We're the first one that's actually full service. So they've given us a lot of leeway.
How'd you get involved with it? How does the opportunity arrive at your door, and what made you want to do it?
As I started to just pivot a little further away from basketball, as far as my business mind continues to grow, and if anybody knows anything about me, when I find something that I'm engaged in and that intrigues me, I'm invested and I'm all in. So I started with Starbucks, Subways, and different things like that, and just looking for different opportunities, looking for something Dwayne and I can do together. Had an opportunity for a space at Brightline train station, and then we were looking for a brand. We were looking for a concept. We bounced around with a lot of different concepts. We played off a lot of different things, and 800 Degrees just sounded like the perfect concept for what we wanted to do together, and Aventura sounded like the perfect place to start it.
All right, before we get into the Heat here, you follow a couple of other teams pretty closely, so I want to get into this with you.
3-0. You gonna ask me about my Dolphins? Don't even ask. We 3-0.
All right, so 3-0.
I can say that before you even say it.
You and I have had a lot of conversations about this through the years, where you gave up hope after about the third or fourth game. So why? I mean, let's be honest.
I speak from frustration. It's never giving up hope, because I can be frustrated on Sunday night and be right back in front of my TV Sunday at 1. So it's always out of frustration.
That's the Dolphins fan experience, man.
It's never giving up hope. It's just speaking out of frustration. I take my football, my Dolphins, and my Hurricanes, and my Gators, and my Toledo Rockets. I take all that stuff heavy.
So why is this different? Why is this 3-0 start? Because they've had decent starts, 2010, 2013.
They were actually 4-2 a year ago. Like a lot of people forget.
I just like that the lunch pail mentality that Coach Gase has. I had the opportunity to speak to the team last year. I had the opportunity to sit down with Coach Gase. And just hear him talk and listen to his vision, and it's real similar to some of the things that we have here. Their mentality. They got rid of a lot of guys and a lot of high-profile guys, and as a fan, you didn't want to see those guys leave, but it opens up an opportunity for a lot of young guys, a lot of guys that maybe are looking to make a name for themselves, a lot of guys that are hungry, a lot of guys that are willing to do what it takes for the team to be successful, and not just for individual success. So I think they're on the right path and they're doing things the right way now.
But you can talk about the lunch pail mentality all you want. It's the double reverse 52-yarder. That's the fun stuff. It's incredible. I mean, the entertainment value was just insane yesterday.
They're opening up the playbook for sure.
Yeah.
They're opening up the playbook for sure. Kenny Stills averaging over 20 yards per catch right now. It's just a lot going on. They definitely open up the playbook, and I'm definitely impressed. Tannehill's playing great right now. They're doing well. They're utilizing all their guys. They're putting their guys in position to be successful offensively. The defense is playing amazing right now, getting turnovers. I think we're ranked 4th in the league defensively. So, I'm locked in.
I can tell. Toledo UM, how strange an experience was that for you?
It was the strangest experience ever. I've never rooted against UM in my life. If anybody knows me, even though I'm a Gator and I played at Florida, when they play the Gators, I usually root for the Hurricanes. Football-wise, Gator basketball is always going to be number one, but football-wise, I usually root for the Hurricanes. So it was the first time in my life I actually had to root against the Hurricanes. But it was an easy call. My son. It's my bloodline, so I was a Rocket that day.
A couple of questions that our guys. We have a Hurricanes podcast, 5 Rings Canes. They say it's going to be six rings soon. We'll see when that happens. They got 2 questions that I'm supposed to ask you. First one: who's the former Cane that reminds you most of yourself?
Former Cane.
The former Hurricane that reminds you most of yourself.
Rohan Marley.
Okay, that's a good one.
Little linebacker, little guy.
Now I remember him.
Back there knocking heads and making plays. Number 2.
Okay, that wouldn't have been my first guess.
Yeah?
For you. I don't know who I would have chosen.
For me, it'd have to be modern day. Like, I have to think of like a modern day player like that.
Yeah, I didn't know that you were going to pick the playmaker. I didn't think you were going to pick Michael Irvin. I thought you might be an Ed Reed guy.
Nah, like I said, look how small he was playing linebacker, and he was a hitter. He used to bring the wood. So I was always a fan of how he played at his size and how he brought it every night.
All right, another one. for that pod. Greatest memory growing up. What's the Canes memory that sticks out? Because again, I know you're a Miami guy, but you go to UF, and like you said, your allegiance never really totally changed. So what's the one that embodies it for you?
Oh man, greatest memory growing up. Oh man, I can't think of another team that had Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee, and Frank Gore all in the same roster in the same backfield at the same time. I mean, if you can name another collegiate team that had that level of talent in the backfield at the same time, and then there's people at that time. Frank Gore was the third.
It was special teams.
He and literally, I think his freshman year, if I'm not mistaken, he averaged about 8.5 yards a carry. He didn't carry the ball that much, but he averaged like 8.5 yards a carry, that year. And then he ended up, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he gets hurt. And then basically Willis McGahee is the solid number 2, and look at the career he had. So I just talk about just the depth that they had in that backfield, and that was just something that always stood out to me. Haven't seen a team that had that kind of talent or depth in the backfield.
Frank's now all-time 4th in rushing. Do you know him very well? Because a lot of people associate the two of you guys.
We work out together. We work out. As I'm walking in the gym every morning, he's walking out.
There's a lot of similarities between the two of you guys, just in terms of the way you carry yourselves. Do you feel that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. We vibe the same. We relate the same to a lot of different things. We have the same mentality. We have conversations in the gym. Our mentality is exactly the same. And it's no coincidence that he's had the success that he's had, and that he's still playing the way he's playing at that age.
He's like the old head on their roster.
Yeah, I saw yesterday there was real cool video and photo of him and Marshawn Lynch exchanging jerseys yesterday after the game. They're kind of like the old heads sort of riding one last time. And Lynch yesterday was incredible. Yeah. But Gore still doing it at 35 is absolutely insane.
Yeah, no. I see the work that he puts in behind the scenes, and I'm not surprised at all. If anybody had a chance to spend any time with myself or with Frank in the summertime, then you'll understand how we were able to do what we were able to do. Practice is easy compared to what we put ourselves through during the summertime in order to just prepare ourselves for another NBA season or NFL season.
Can you take us through a little bit of that? Can you take us through obviously you don't have to give away your workout because that's sort of your secret, but just the amount of work that goes in.
Well, first of all, we don't believe in working out in air conditioning. Once we walk in the gym, the air goes off immediately. We don't have air conditioning in our gym anyway. We just have these fans, and once I walk in, I unplug the fans. I immediately increase the intensity of the workout just by cutting the fan off because how hot it is. We work out outside, which basketball people say, why are you working out outside? You play basketball. Basketball is an indoor sport. Once again, I'm intensifying the workout, pushing sleds. It's a process, and it's a lot that goes into it.
So I want to transition now to this team and this year, and you're calling this a last stand. I know you never say that something's your last year before it's your last year, so I don't want to – if you want to announce that right now, you can. It's okay. But how do you approach this season? Because Dwayne talked about that with us a little bit today, that he feels like it's going to be a lot about basketball, but also it's hard for it not to be about nostalgia too, because as he's going to courts for the last time, he knows it's the last time as a player. So how do you approach it this year? Do you take everything in a different way than you have before?
Yeah, I probably won't pay attention to it being the last time. I'm sure people will probably show up with signs and, things for him, but probably won't be the same for me. But for me, it's just focusing on doing what my job is, coming to practice every day, working hard, helping these guys reach their goals of being the best player they could possibly be and possibly being champions. And one step at a time, one day at a time, and once one day passes, you just go on to the next day.
You've been on a lot of different teams with a lot of different kinds of expectations. I mean, totally run the gamut. Teams that came into a season and you guys were not expected to win a championship. You were supposed to win multiple championships with those teams between 2010 and 2014. You've gone into other years where we didn't feel like the team had much of a chance. You look at like 2007 and some of those other years. So what is this year about? You've got a lot of the same group. You've been on teams that have had continuity before, and you've been able to benefit from that. But what is this about for this group, like in addition to the message you're talking about?
I mean, I think a lot of people look at our roster and say, okay, they're bringing back the same guys, so we're going to have the same team. But, yeah, we're bringing back the same guys, but we won't have the same team because these guys are not the same players. You look at all the work that these guys have put in behind the scenes. Bam has basically lived here. Derrick Jones has basically lived here. Jay Rich always is here. Justice. I mean, the list goes on and on. JJ, Deion's getting back healthy. We're bringing back the same guys, but they're not the same players. So I expect us fully to get into the playoffs. And once there, you restart the season and you push for the next round, and then you keep pushing for the next round after that.
What does that improvement look like on a year-to-year basis? Because you're talking about players who are kind of early stage of their career. When you were sort of ascending in your NBA career, can you really tell the difference year over year? Or you kind of take a one day at a time approach, but all that work, what does it eventually look like by way of improvement?
Well, it starts mentally. It starts mentally, just being more comfortable when you're stepping out on the floor, just understanding, what the coach wants and doesn't want from you, understanding your spacing on the floor, understanding what your guys do well offensively and defensively. So I think the first step of being a new player and a better player the next year is just being more comfortable, getting a year up under your belt. So when you step out there, you just feel more relaxed. 2 is you put the work in. You put the work in and all these different things. So when you step on the floor, those things should be natural. These are the things you worked on. These are the things you built confidence in the offseason. So when you step on the basketball court, you can't do those things.
Final question for you. We'll let you go here, Udonis. If 2018 Udonis Haslem could tell 2003 Udonis Haslem something, what would it be?
Wow. Surround yourself with good people. That was what I would tell all the young guys, and that's what the 2018 Udonis would tell you 2003. And it's not that I didn't have good people around me then. It just wasn't as big of a priority at that time, and I see how important that is. Gotcha.
Udonis Haslem here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We're going to try to get the download numbers up on this, and then I'm going to send it to Rio so that he understands.
Rio the type of junk that'll download it over and over.
He'll download all kinds of apps.
Yeah.
Just like download on 9 apps.
He's the type of junk that'll download it over and over again and call all his people. He wrote
a children's book before you do. You got to get on that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, my mouth too filthy for a children's book.
All right,
only children's that can handle my book is my kids.
All right, Udonis Haslem here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
This is the 5 Reasons Sports Network, Miami sports on demand. We now have 13 podcasts in the network, posting roughly 15 times per week, all absolutely free. Find all of our shows on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Podbean. Plus, become a member of our Patreon feed and you'll get even more fresh content. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Here's some of what you missed last week on Ballscast.
It's legitimately dreadful watching the Dolphins, man. Like, is it worth it to be a Dolphin fan? Like, this feels terrible.
If you want to get involved as a sponsor or a contributor, reach out to us at #5 Reasons Sports on Twitter. Don't forget to punch 5 Reasons in your search bar and then hit subscribe.
Thanks to UD for spending a little bit more time with us. Obviously, we'll try to get him on again over the course of the season, particularly if his Dolphins end up something like 14-2. And now, though, let's go to Josh Richardson. Ethan Skolnick back here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network with Chris Whittingham. Been out here at Media Day all day. Last guy here, usually the last guy on the floor a lot of times, getting that extra practice in. Josh Richardson. We're going to try to talk a little basketball with Josh before Chris turns this into a complete FIFA conversation.
Okay. I like where this is headed.
So we're going to do a little of my silly questions until we move this over to what Josh and Chris actually want to talk about. Last year, we've talked a lot about kind of your breakout last year, particularly what you were doing in December. And then kind of as the season went on, you had some of those moments, but the aggressiveness that you showed in December, what do you want to try to replicate from what you did last season, and what did you work on this offseason so you can get to that level more often?
Well, first of all, what I want to replicate is how many games I played. I want to stay healthy this year. I think that's one of my biggest things, but just the confidence that I started playing with, at a few points last year was definitely a high point, and I think I can play with that all season this year.
Is it just defensively? Obviously, your metrics are like through the roof. I mean, you've established where you are on that end. Offensively, for you, is it sometimes just kind of being aggressive, saying I'm going to take those kind of shots? And how do you? Because you got a lot of wings on this roster. You got a lot of twos on this roster. How do you kind of find your fit there and know when it's your time to go?
In my head, honestly, going into this year, it pretty much always needs to be that. It needs to be attack mode all the time. Like, I don't need to be floating like I did sometimes in the past. I don't need to be, deferring to other people or I need to be one of the guys that really is making the defense guard and getting other guys involved and getting in the paint. It doesn't need to just be, Goran and Dion, doing those things. So yeah, I need to step into that.
Do you feel that that's something you can continue to do late in games then too? Because we've seen some of that from you also. And all these things are things you've shown, right? So I mean, we've seen them all at various times. We know it's in there. So is that a different approach at the end of games too? When you have guys like Dwayne and Dion who have done it in those situations.
Yeah, it needs to be because it's D-Wade's last season. He he doesn't need to be trying to do that every night. And I want to be, the guy to step into that next.
Yeah, do you sort of feel like there's sort of, not a mantle to take on, because, Dwayne Wade is one of the greatest basketball players ever, but that sort of next step for you being as a leader on this team and being someone who is going to sort of take this team into the next generation, is that, I don't want to say it's overwhelming, but is that kind of a step that you're thinking about?
I definitely am, and I definitely am excited about starting that process. I'm going to learn as much from D-Wade as I can this year, and I've been learning from UD these last few years, and even I still talk to, CB, Bosch about that a lot, but, I know it's a lot of responsibility, but competitors ask for that responsibility.
Right.
That's an interesting thing I want to touch on with you, because I hear that from other guys that CB is still kind of a factor, right? I mean, how often do you talk to Chris? What do you talk? Because Chris talks about so many different things. What do you talk to Chris about?
Music.
I knew it wouldn't be basketball first.
Just life. It's a lot of life talk. So we talk about basketball quite a bit too, but he's a guy that's so eclectic in everything he does. It's like it's easy just to sit down and talk to him about 20 different things and not even feel like you've been there for 2 hours or something like that. One
of the things interesting is that he loved the game, and the game was taken away from him. And he always struck me as a guy who could do a million other things, but he still loved the game so much that it bothered him when it was taken away. Do you, as a guy who's still relatively young in your career, does that make you kind of appreciate it a little bit more when you see what he went through?
It definitely does, because, I was on a team when it happened again. And it was like, I didn't know, what he was going through. I didn't know how to, try to help. I didn't know. So when I finally got to talk to him about it, it was like, man, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anyone just had to call it quits like that. So yeah, it definitely makes me thankful to be able to come in here every day and be able to do what I love still.
3 favorite guys to guard in the league. 3 challenges that you look forward to taking on.
It was D-Wade when he didn't play here, but he's back now.
In practice, then.
Just because it was like an extra game. I don't know, really. I don't know. I kind of treat everybody the same. It's not like anybody wakes me up extra. I'm going to treat guarding the top guy like I would treat guarding, a last man off the bench.
But you think you've earned a rep, though, at this point? Because at a certain stage, defenders who get to a certain level, they start to, maybe you're not getting the accolades for it that you should, that we believe you should, but guys in the league know. So, have you started to sense that a little bit in terms of what guys say to you, the way that guys attack you, approach you?
Yeah, a little bit. Guys kind of tend to go away from me every now and then and kind of try to get off it, but I don't really pay attention to that much. I'm just, whenever my guy's involved in a play, I'm for sure going to, give everything I got every time down to stop him.
Before we get one more, and then you can get to your soccer conversation. You've had to, from a position change standpoint. I remember being in an airport once where you were being sent to Sioux Falls to learn how to run 100 pick and rolls as a point guard. Obviously, you've gone away from that. You've done some of that, but you're not doing as much of that. Then you're the 2, you move to the 3. You've been playing a lot of that. We have this conversation all the time with the podcast because Chris thinks it doesn't matter. Everybody's a wing at this stage. If you're a 2 and you're a 3, it's pretty much the same thing. What, in your view, are the differences between playing the small forward in the modern NBA and playing the 2?
Size. I think size is the biggest difference. First of all, that jumps out at you. If I'm playing the 2, I would be a tall 2. I'd be one of the bigger shooting guards. Mm-hmm. But when I'm at the 3, I'm the smallest dude at the position. So it's oh man, I gotta guard 20 post-ups today, or stuff like that. It's just a difference in play style, but it's not huge. Like, it's not like if you play the 2, you can't play the 3. It's not like that.
All right, I'm done. Go ahead.
No, I actually have a dorky basketball question, and then we'll get to the soccer stuff. But in terms of the continuity of this team, I kind of find interesting that a lot of people talked about, the Heat didn't bring anybody new in and nobody left. Does that sort of establish a priority on the beginning of the season that you guys are not integrating anybody new, that you guys really should have an advantage in terms of hitting the ground running and knowing what you want to be from day one?
Yeah, and I think we're getting everybody back hopefully in the near future, and I mean we got some positions and some things to iron out early, but I mean we have so much back that it should only take training camp and preseason to really figure those things out, because last season, I mean, we were trying to figure stuff out in the middle of the year, and it was different. But I mean, coaches, players, everybody's back, so it should be a lot smoother.
All right, let's talk some soccer. So, so how did you get into FIFA so much?
I was in college my junior year, and I lived in a house with 4 other dudes, and I mean, my roommate Carter, his older brother Mackenzie would come over a lot. And he was a FIFA guy, but I was like 2K all day. Like me and Carter would just play 2K all day. And he started like teaching me about FIFA, and I was like, I mean, I knew like a little bit about soccer, but not a lot. And at first, he would like just trash me every time. I'd be like, yo, this is dumb. But then we got to playing more and more, and then we found some more friends that played, and I just started getting into it a lot. And I haven't stopped.
Right. So you are now an Arsenal guy. Is that because that was your FIFA team?
Yeah.
All right. So what was like who was in that first FIFA team that like got you? I like these guys, I like these players, and I like Arsenal now.
Mesut Ozil, Theo Walcott.
Got speed for days, didn't he?
Yeah, those are like that's my favorite. That's my favorite too.
What language is this?
But now, so it's not. So I think for a lot of people, FIFA is sort of the foray into actually watching real soccer and getting into it, and that seems to have happened with you. Like I follow you on Twitter, and like on a random Sunday morning, you'll be tweeting about Arsenal playing. Like yesterday was Arsenal playing Everton, and I don't know if you were watching the game yesterday, but just like on a random day, you'll be watching it. So, what was that next step for you?
Well, I moved down here. It's a lot more FIFA culture, or not a lot more soccer culture. Yeah. And actually, when I moved here, and 2 of my best friends here, Athos and Arthur. Arthur's from Russia. His dad coaches FC Lokomotiv.
Oh, nice.
He's a goalies coach, and Athos is from Brazil, and he grew up playing soccer, and he's grown up around the culture. So I hung out with them every day, like all the time, like in the off season, during the season, and we would just talk soccer all day. We watched every one of Lokomotiv's games, so
they're
we
the champions now.
Them. Yeah, and then it was like, I was used to it.
Yeah,
like,
you're in
game day. Is there a soccer game? Yeah, all right, come on and watch it before I take a nap.
Right, and it's on all the time, and particularly it's on at times when you're not playing, right? So even if you have a game on a Saturday night, on a Saturday morning, there's game on. So so give me your thoughts on Arsenal. So now that they've made the manager change, they finally Wenger out, and now they've won a few games here, and it seems like they're on the right track.
We're on like a 5-game, 6-game roll right now.
I think it's a 5 on the
rolling.
bounce, 4 in the league.
My boy Lacazette had a nice goal yesterday.
Cracking goal, wasn't it?
My boy, him and Abba are playing real well together.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying the little hookup they got going. What else? A lot's happening.
This pod has turned into a bitch invasion.
I'm really. That's like the 2 right now. That's
the 2, man. You got the new ones. You got new players in midfield too. You got Guendouzi and Torreira in there. Decent players.
Is good. I wasn't so sure about him because the only highlights I really saw about him was him getting nutmegged by everybody before he got there. But
be careful. We have a Uruguayan guy over there. I know he's a big fan of Luca Torreira. So
he's been bringing it though.
Yeah, he's good, man.
I kind of mess with Emery. I thought they were playing too conservative at first, and it was really making me mad. Like, they were just defending for, like, 65, 70 minutes out of the game. Yeah. But, I don't know. Things are starting to look up. I wore my Aubameyang jersey to the gym today.
Yeah, and you can wear it with pride now. They're heading towards the top of the league. But the new FIFA comes out tomorrow. How many hours is that on the road? How many hours is that of like just right? Like it like. What?
Some of us have to work.
No, you don't. Like I was talking with Tyler earlier, and it's just like almost like full days go when you're just on the road. This is all you're doing.
Yeah, it's like, well, I actually have my Xbox pack to go to training camp. I'm prepared. Because, yeah, I pre-ordered it weeks ago. I'm ready.
You had it sent to FAU instead of to your home.
Yes, I'm ready. So whenever it comes out, I'm going to be on it tonight.
Okay.
I'm just letting y'all know, if I want to get smacked online, J-Rich0, I'm taking challengers.
All right. Some guys
Miami MLS work down here? You think it'll work?
I think it will. I'm super excited.
It's not Miami MLS. It's Inter
sorry,
Miami.
Inter Miami. I'm sorry.
Right.
And Beckham's putting some pretty aggressive statements out there about some people he wants. So, I mean, I've been recruiting Griezmann. I don't know if he's been seeing it, but I definitely been talking to him about it. I told him I need those season tickets before, off top. I need to be the top of the list, season tickets. I'm there. They have my full support. I don't have an MLS team yet. So, yeah, I'm a fan.
Here's the deal: if you put together a season like your December, you're top of the list season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
You averaged 19. I want to ask you one more thing. I know you came in as Rook 1 and Rook 2. You went by that for a while. Are you familiar with the nickname that our guys here on the podcast have given Justice Winslow? Do you know it? No. Justice Better.
I have heard that. I saw it on Twitter. I see it on Twitter sometimes. Justice Better. Yeah, I see it on Twitter.
So the important question here is, before we close, is Justice better?
Of course. Duh. He's better.
Perfect.
All right.
Canonized for all time.
That's right.
Right.
Josh Richardson here
Confirms,
on the 5 Reasons
indeed,
Sports
that
Podcast.
Justice
Josh,
Winslow is better.
Nice talking, y'all. Yep. Josuelito out.
Thanks for listening today. We will have another Heat-related episode later this week. We spoke at length for a Heat Stories episode to Grant Long, who was Udonis Haslem before Udonis Haslem. I should have asked Udonis about that, Chris. What was I thinking? Anyway, it's a great interview with Grant Long. We'll have that a little bit later in the week. We're also going to be speaking to Jackie McMullen about her new basketball book. And then next Monday, we will have a full recap of Dolphins-Patriots after our watch party, which you can come to. It is open to the public. We'll have drink and food specials over at Texas Roadhouse in Miramar, just west of I-75 on Miramar Parkway.